Today I'll be talking about vagueness. I'll try and be as clear as I can about it. So we've had this theme for the last 6 weeks on freedom, or Vimutti as it's known in Buddhism. This is the final week on that theme. Some of the talks were recorded, so they're on the WhatsApp group. And by the way, there's a QR code for the WhatsApp group on the notice board if you're not part of it yet, just to get that announcement out of the way. And the series was based on, it's a talk that Sangharakshita gave in London in 1979 called A Taste of Freedom. So Sangharakshita, he's the founder of this movement, Triratna Buddhism, that this centre is part of. And in that talk, well, he's talking about a sutta from the Udana. The Udana it's one of the oldest portions of the Buddhist scriptures. And in that sutta, the Buddha is comparing his teaching, the Dharma, to the ocean, to a great ocean. And so the Buddha, he often used images and symbols to communicate, as well as concepts. So he was using this image of the ocean. And one of the lines from that sutta is as follows: just as the great ocean has but one taste, the taste of salt, so this doctrine and discipline has but one taste, the taste of freedom. So he was saying that that's what his Dharma is about. It's about freedom. Every part and aspect of it has this taste, just as the ocean everywhere has the taste of salt. Yeah? So freedom is quite a big theme in Buddhism. And we saw that often these days we tend to think of freedom in terms of civil liberties and rights in that way. In terms of being able to do what we want when we want, and in terms of having more choice. There are ways in which we think about freedom. But the Buddhist, the term Vimutti, it means a complete liberation from mental, emotional and existential suffering, ultimately. And it's not something that's based on external conditions, on externals. Often we think in terms of changing the externals and then we'll feel free. But it's more to do with an internal change. Yeah? So you can feel free even under difficult circumstances. Sugaba talked a few weeks ago about 2 ways in which the mind functions. So we have the reactive mind and the creative mind. And freedom is more to do with the creative mind. Yeah, you can find greater levels of creativity and freedom in your life through developing certain qualities. The reactive mind is symbolized by the wheel of life. We have an image of that by the sofas outside. It's where you're sort of going around in circles in life. Your life doesn't really change. You just react to things kind of unthinkingly. There's little awareness in what you're doing. That's the reactive mind. And in traditional Buddhist terms, you're driven by greed, hatred, and delusion in the reactive mind by these what are known as poisons. The creative mind is symbolized by a spiral, so the sense of you're going round but also going up at the same time. So there's an element of transformation. You're transforming your being when you're living creatively. There's this element of transforming yourself, and through that you find freedom. So that's the kind of brief recap of ground we've covered. And some of you are fairly new, some of the terms might not be familiar to you. And the last 3 weeks, well, including this week, we're talking about what we call the 3 fetters, or the 3 shackles, the grilletes in Spanish. Yeah. So the shackles, well, actually there are 10. It's a list of 10. It's a traditional Buddhist list. And these 10 fetters or shackles, they're what keeps you bound to the reactive mind. Yeah? They will stop you from being free. But the first three of them are the most important. So this week, I'll be talking a bit about the shackle of vagueness. The usual term is doubt or indecision. Yeah? The Sanskrit word for this is vichikitsa, which literally means something like two-pointedness of mind. So you're not focused on one thing. We have this phrase in English, I'm in two minds about something. It's this state of wavering, being indecisive, procrastination, that kind of thing. That's what it's pointing to. Doubt as a hindrance, there's something, it's almost like a deliberate passivity in the face of life. You don't really want to know, you don't want to come to a conclusion about something. It's like keeping things vague, murky, unclear, nebulous, avoiding what's important. That's why the word vagueness is better than doubt. You can have honest doubts about things. Sometimes things don't add up and you need to explore and examine things. So there is a kind of positive form of doubt. And the Buddha did encourage his followers to question his teachings. As a goldsmith tests gold is the image he used. So you don't just take things on blindly. There's no such thing as blind faith in Buddhism. So you can have a kind of honest doubt which you need to explore, and you will. That's important. But doubt in this sense of vagueness it's a bit like the questions never even come to the surface. It's like you won't even ask the questions. You're keeping things a bit unconscious. We all do this to some extent. So you're keeping everything unconscious. Maybe there's a bit of being dishonest with yourself as well. Is part of that. So breaking this shackle, this fetter of vagueness, it's not about just making very quick decisions about things. It's to do with how you prioritize in life and prioritizing that which has real value, real meaning to you. So, say for instance, as an example, you make a decision that you're going to turn your mobile phone off for an hour every day because you find that your mind's a bit clearer if you're not constantly just looking at the screen. And that decision, it comes from a sense of shraddha. So shraddha is a Buddhist word, a word you'll hear quite often in Buddhism. It means faith or confidence. It's a response to the truth. Yeah? It's a response to beauty and higher values, which is an intrinsic human quality. So you make a decision to do something that's based on shraddha because you want to develop, you want to grow, you want to change in some way. So say you decide to turn your mobile phone off for an hour every day, but then you start thinking, well, I might get a WhatsApp from so-and-so, or that YouTube video, it'd be really good if I saw that, it looks really interesting. So all these ifs and buts start coming in. Yeah? And it's a bit like you're placing the WhatsApp message or the YouTube video on the same level as your aspiration to grow. So it all becomes on the same level. That's an aspect of vagueness as well. You don't prioritize and commit yourself to any sort of path of action. So there are different aspects to vagueness. And Subhuti, he's a leading teacher in this Triratna movement. He talks of vagueness as, he has the phrase, passivity or indecision in the face of one's existential situation. Yeah? So we have this life, we want to make the most of it. And to do that we need to prioritize what has real meaning and value to us. But that's not easy. That's not easy. Changing, growing isn't easy. So there's always this sort of gravitational pull towards keeping things comfortable, staying the same, not to fully engage with life. So this, passivity in the face of one's existential situation. Another reason behind vagueness, a possible reason, is it can just be a lack of integration. So our energies are often very divided over different things. We can be spread quite thinly. This relates to what Sugava was talking about last week, about superficiality, which is another fetter or shackle. So we're spread thinly. There's no strong central current in our lives. We're like a river that's been split into 100 different streams sometimes. Yeah? And that's another reason, if you prioritize what has value for you, and then you can gather your energies around that. It doesn't mean you don't have other interests, but there's something central in your life. Yeah? So through that you become more integrated. So you might get a taste of integration if you meditate regularly. So sometimes after a meditation that's gone reasonably well, you do feel this sense of being one being, one complete being, rather than your energies pulling in different directions. Often we feel quite split, our energies are pulling in different directions. So you might get a sense of integration through meditation. You just feel much more as if you're this kind of one unit, rather than lots of different selves pushing and pulling each other. So to move forward with the creative path, the spiral path, you need some degree of integration and the ability to commit yourself to a course of action. Yeah? You don't need to be greatly intelligent and gifted. You just need commitment and some integration. And even if you are very intelligent and gifted, you still need the same things: commitment and integration. So in a few moments we'll have some discussion. We'll divide into two groups. So there might be some questions around that have come up, or you can explore some of the issues that I've talked about. And a few weeks ago, I think it's the second week of this series, I talked about a symbol from Tibetan Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism is full of images and rituals and symbols. And one symbol in Tibetan Buddhism is this figure called the Dakini. The Dakini. She represents the enlightened mind and the complete integration of all our energies, psychic and emotional energies at every level. This kind of complete integration. Unfortunately, we don't have the figure here, the image here still, but she's completely red. She's naked. She's in the blue sky. The blue sky represents freedom as well, so she can move in any direction with ease. And she's also associated with the cremation ground. The cremation ground is another symbol in Tibetan Buddhism. It symbolizes the places you don't want to go. Yeah? So it's said that she inhabits the cremation ground. So to contact this complete integration and to release energies, we all have our own cremation ground, as it were. There's a place that we don't necessarily want to go, because it might arouse fear. But through doing that, through going to that place, you can deepen your practice and find more of a sense of freedom.